Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the High Ticket Coaching and Consultant Strategy and Growth Show. Now, if you listen to this interview anywhere else but within our private Facebook community called High Ticket Client Attraction Insider Circle, definitely come check us out. We'd definitely love to have you. I believe over the past couple of weeks, we've recently grown to about 7,000 members. So if you're a coach, consultant, or service provider and you're not already a member, definitely come check us out. So my name is Extus Justin, for those of you who are not familiar. And today I want to introduce you to another one of the members of our community, Shauna. Welcome, Shauna.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, you're welcome. So Shauna, tell myself and the rest of the community, what do you do?
So I run a consulting company in the tech space. We are technology consultants helping businesses navigate technology, which can be very overwhelming a lot of times if that's not your core business. So that is our goal, is to simplify technology for overwhelmed businesses.
Awesome. What's your backstory? Have you been doing this for quite a while? Or what's your backstory? How did you get into this?
I founded this company, I'm going to say literally overnight by accident. In 2015, I had a job and it wasn't going very well. The company just wasn't doing well. Paychecks were very delayed. Our benefits kept getting canceled. And I thought, I need to make a change. So I had looked around and thought I could just go to another job, right? But I had wanted for a number of years, I had been thinking about, and I kind of dabbled in consulting in previous roles and things like independent. And so I reached out to some like former clients and contacts who had offered me jobs previously, but it was the end of the year. It was December. And so they said, we don't have an FTE count for you. And I was like, oh man, like I have this, I'm working 60, 80 hours a week. I'm not getting a paycheck and now I have nowhere to land. Right. And so one of them just, it was complete. I don't know if it was luck or destiny. He called me back and he said, you know, I have consulting dollars. I can't give you a job, but I have consulting dollars if that's something that you would be interested in. And I went, oh, okay. And so I reached back out to those same contacts and I decided to do this on December 31st. So I started my business with the fiscal on January 1, but I reached out, I got contracts signed that day. Incorporated right after New Year's Eve party, and I started working with clients on January 2nd. So it was literally overnight. I wasn't quite at the desperation point dollar-wise, which I know is sometimes where a lot of folks start, but it was literally overnight. And I don't think if I had thought about it for years, I don't know if I'd ever would have done it, but it kind of came together that way.
Yeah. And it's always fascinating how once we put ourselves out there to just either let other people know what we do, all of a sudden opportunities, they just show up out of the blue, like things we would have never expected or never even really planned for, right? Yeah, just like when you said,
it's like I couldn't have worked that out if I'd planned it any better. So that was how we started. And I'd worked in the small corporate space, right? Like I'd worked with a lot of startups. And so once we had that up and running, we grew to about, we fluctuate numbers-wise between kind of 12 and 20 consultants that do work in several different countries. And once we did that, I started realizing how underserved the true small business market was, right? In that there's a lot of information out there if you can afford to pay for it, right? There's a lot of information out there if you have mentors and if you're part of a company and you only have to do one piece. But when you are really a solopreneur, even if you're building a team, there's not a ton of information out there. So a couple of years later, we actually expanded to include that small business segment as people are starting up their businesses as well, because I just thought it was such an underserved, like I felt underserved as a member of it. And so I think that's really important, is some support in that startup and small business community.
Love it. Now, what about the vision? What's that vision that you're building towards at the moment?
So for I'll call them our corporate stream, our mid-market clients, our vision is to make their technology simple so they can have access to global technology strategy without the global technology price tag, right? Typically, when you think of heavy hitters, you think of like IBM and Facebook and Google and Tesla and all those places that a small business doesn't have that kind of budget, and they generally don't have access to that knowledge base. So our consultants have worked with those companies. And so we have access, just, you know, as the world has gone more online, it's made small business be able to compete, or that middle market be able to compete a lot better. We want to give them access to those tools, those strategies, those resources, so that their business will be safe and secure and technologically moving forward.
Yeah. I guess with COVID-19, it's one of those things where it's like, it's almost made it to where it's like almost like it's an even playing field, right? Whereas in the past, you have to physically go out and be there, all these different things, versus today, with the internet, Zoom, Skype, all these different processes, you're able to be there and kind of like, almost like it's the same exact playing field for each of the different businesses, right?
Yes, for sure. So the internet leveled the playing field, I would say, to within about 10 feet from the ground, right? And COVID, I think, took it the rest of the way, right? I mean, I have public clients who are publicly traded companies, and we transitioned, you know, 15,000 of their staff to work from home within about 4 or 5 days, right? And that's the same challenge, just on a bigger scale, that a small business faces, right? They had to figure out how to keep doing business, how to keep the lights on, how to keep revenue rolling in, to be creative in a world that we had not anticipated. I mean, we did not anticipate this level of impact from COVID. So I think whatever the internet didn't handle, COVID did.
Yeah, awesome. So what would you say if you had to like condense everything you've kind of learned over the years in terms of getting to where you are today? How would you summarize, like, what are the key principles? What are maybe 2 or 3 key principles as far as what you've really figured out? What would you say they are?
Right. The first thing I've learned is keep it simple. That is the number one thing I wish I had known. And I think if you're if you're like naturally kind of a problem solver, we keep looking for problems. Keep your business as simple as possible. People hear when they're starting a business, oh, you need funnels and you need all of these things, right? Like you need all these different price points and stuff. You won't ever get to that point if you don't keep it simple at the start. We started with one product, which was a service. We started with one price point, and we started with one target market. That was it. And had it not been for that, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So keep it simple anywhere that you can simplify. Always ask yourself, am I making this too complicated? That's, I think, the first thing. And the second thing is be proud of whatever you build, right? There's kind of like a shame that goes along with the beginning stages of things, right? And when I think back, people would say, oh, you know, that's great if you could have someone on your team, and they would say your business. And I would be like kind of embarrassed about it, right? I would think, well, I just have this like little company and stuff. Whatever you're doing, wherever you're at, look at where you started and you will be amazed at how far you've come.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So I know what you said as far as keeping it simple. So do you believe that most entrepreneurs, most individuals, is that a natural way someone thinks as far as keeping things simple? What do you think?
No, I'm going to say no, because there's so much of being an entrepreneur is mental, right? It really, really is. It is about the mindset with which you approach things, right? And I'm a data science based person. Like I'm not trying to sort of make it sound all metaphysical, but so much is about the mindset with which we approach things. So if there's fear, if we're scared to go to the next level, we will put all kinds of levels of complication between us and that, right? Oh, I can't tell people about my business until I have a website, and I have to get fancy business cards, and I have to have a good social media following, and all these things we say, when I have this, I will do. I started my business literally $37. That's what it cost me. I registered a domain because I needed an email address, and I got business cards printed overnight at Staples. That was it. We didn't have a website. So we were close to $250,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome.
So the simplest, the minimum, what you need to do to get out there and serve the people who need you. That's always what I recommend.
Mm-hmm. And something you mentioned earlier, you said people who are problem solvers are always looking for problems. Like,
yes.
Tell us about that. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I think entrepreneurs are natural problem solvers. That's why we're here, right? We solve a problem in the market. Mm-hmm. And so once you know what you solve, quit looking for other problems, right? Get so clear about solving that problem, that you can sell it on autopilot, then go find the next problem. You can't do, 10 things at once, right? Especially when you're an entrepreneur, when you're a small business, doing those 10 things is going to split your result over those 10 things. Do one thing really, really well, and then move on to the next thing. That, I know for me, I can tell when I'm trying to put stuff between me and the goal, because I will come up with all kinds of problems that are not real, right? Mm-hmm. I will solve all kinds of things that I don't need. And I think that's really important. And then the third thing that I would mention is get support. This doesn't have to be paid support when you're starting out. This needs to be someone that you're accountable to. It needs to be someone that you can express whatever is going on that you can't really share with clients, and you can't always share with your team if you're building one, which is the fear, the doubt, the whatever all is going on. If you're starting out and you've never done this before, it's scary. Someone that you can sort of bounce and bounce ideas off of, I think is very important. They don't even have to provide you a solution. I think it's a sounding board is so important. The first role that I brought on was actually a COO, a consulting COO, Chief Operating Officer, because I said, I just need someone that I can do sanity checks with, that I can make sure that I'm driving towards vision as opposed to putting things in my way.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, powerful stuff. So how do you, when it comes to, I guess, finding people, do you have any advice on what it takes to find the right people to bring into your business, your company?
I think assess what you've got, right? So this is a very humbling experience, right? Again, problem solvers like to do all kinds of different things, right? So look at, for instance, what are you missing? What do you do really well? I saw this cartoon one time, and this guy, it said, I am so great at sales, I'm going to go out and create content. What he should have done is hired someone to create the content, and he keeps doing sales, right? So hire your weakness always. And I think it's important, and this again is a humbling thing as you're looking to find people to bring onto your team, bring in people that are smarter than you. And be okay with being like, I don't know, 10 times a day, I'm like, I'm not the expert on this, and being okay with that, right? I want the best around me to work and serve our clients. And so coming at it from a perspective of recognizing that that's not your area of expertise, and that's what you're hiring for. Let them be awesome.
Yeah. And that's a interesting concept as well too, because it's like most entrepreneurs, when they do start businesses, it's almost like they want to be the smartest one in the room. They always want to be the smartest one. If they feel threatened in terms of someone might know more than them, or someone might challenge what they think, all of a sudden it's like, whoa. And it's like they don't even want to entertain that, but it's almost like a counterintuitive thing too, where as an entrepreneur, you almost have to hire those smart people, and in a sense, have them tell you what needs to be done and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. I don't know if you saw, it was just an article that came out a couple of days ago about the email Tim Cook at Apple sent. Mm-hmm. He had gotten customer feedback, and he forwarded on to his executive team with one word in the email. And he just said, thoughts. And I thought that was so powerful. What he said is, I don't know the answer to this. I run the company. I don't know the answer to this. I'm sending it out to my experts. And I think that's so powerful. And it will allow your team to do their best work also, right? Mm-hmm. When they know they're the expert, right? They don't have to sit in your shadow. Mm-hmm. I think that's important.
Yeah. So what about the concept of the whole work-life balance? How do you balance work-life? What are your thoughts?
I think setting boundaries is very important. Again, something else that can be very difficult, right? When you're a problem solver, if a problem shows up at 4 a.m, you want to be all over that, right? So setting your boundaries, setting targets and setting boundaries, I think are so important. So for instance, I do work weekends, not always, but I will schedule work on weekends because I work in technology and stuff has to happen on off hours, right? We can't do things a lot of time in the middle of business. And I'm not usually there for a lot of that, but I am available should someone need me. So set those boundaries for yourself. Set your non-negotiables. If it is a non-negotiable that you drop your kids off at school every day, if they're going to a physical school, or you get them started with their online learning every day, or you have to be at home for dinner every day, set your non-negotiables and build your build your business around those non-negotiables, recognizing, you know, there's a cost to everything, right? You might be passing up business if you are adamant that you will be home for dinner, but you can also never get those dinners back with your family. So it's about priorities and boundaries, I think.
Yeah, yeah. What would you say is your superpower if you had to look back and just say, okay, here's the thing, my one thing. What is your one thing?
I think I wrote a book a couple of years ago when I realized I was an introvert. I always thought I was kind of just a freak, but I found out I was an introvert, and I'm going to go with that is one of my superpowers because, and I don't present as an introvert, but it gives me the ability to maintain some distance, which I think is so important. I never used to have that skill. I used to be so like, I take it all personally, and accepting that there's room for everyone, that whoever you are right now, you are perfectly positioned to be the vision that you have for yourself, for your business, etc. Accepting that. And the day I accepted, I can't change that I'm an introvert, it became my superpower.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Love it. Love it. What's the name of your book that you wrote?
The Introvert's Guide to Building a Seven-Figure Business.
Mm-hmm. That sounds powerful. I love it. Okay. Awesome. So what's the next, I guess, in terms of what you're up to right now, and I love the question as far as a story, right? So what's a story you could tell us from your past so that we could look back and say, so that's what kind of shaped you to get on this path and get to where you are currently today. Do you have any stories that you could share?
Wow. Let me think for 1 sec. A story that I can share that shows like the progression.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when I think back, kind of to the day that I started, this was my pre opening day, I'll call it, right? I happened to decide it and experience it in the same day. So I presented contracts to future clients at about 11:30 in the morning. I drove to San Diego to the San Diego-Tijuana border because at the time I was on a TN that I had to register new clients, like for immigration purposes. I drove there, went and did that, drove back. This was December 31st. Drove back, went to a New Year's Eve party, got home at about 3 in the morning, registered an LLC on LegalZoom. And later that day, I booked, I had clients that had signed contracts. I let them know what my company name was going to be because I didn't have one yet. I named it after my daughter's initials because I only had a few minutes to think it up.
Mm-hmm.
And later that day, I booked my flight because the next morning I flew out to New York.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think back to, let me add to that. I got there and I thought, I have to have an email address so people can contact me, right? I can't be giving out a Gmail address. So I registered a domain. And then I thought, I'm gonna need cards or something. Line to Staples, overnight print. I took like their basic template, got that printed out, picked them up the next morning on my way to the client site, and just started handing them out to the clients that had signed and some new clients that were interested. And when I think back to that, if I had tried to do that, right? And I was probably resistant to it. I just didn't have a choice. It happened so fast. I just didn't have a choice, right? I mean, I guess there's always a choice, but if I had tried to plan that, I couldn't have. If I had been resistant to it, it wouldn't have happened. When I let it happen, I think, like, when I think back on that, I'm like, that's probably one of the more active days I've ever had in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let things happen, I think is the biggest key. Plan and make room for whatever you're planning, to allow things to be given to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's almost like the people who succeed, because succeeding is one of those things where it's like, you just have to just do what's in front of you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Success is one of those places where I believe that a lot of people have the potential for success, but because of whatever reason, they get in the situations, which is exactly where they need to be. But either that little voice in the head says, you can't do that, or you're not smart enough, or maybe wait till tomorrow or something.
Yeah.
And we end up missing out on the opportunity, right?
Yes. And if I'd had time, all those voices would have taken over, right? Because they're very loud. Like, let's be real, I still have them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know we've done product launches where we've had months and months and months of planning, and we've done product launches on a three-day turnaround. And the months of planning, I think, you still have to go through that process, but their launches, I would say, almost equal in terms of out of the gate results, right? When we have clients that come and say, we really need this, can you productize it for us? And we do rapid product development. Sure, if it's something we do, absolutely. It's not necessarily something I would have thought of, because the client is asking, they're telling us exactly what they need. So when your client tells you what they need, give it to them. If it's within your wheelhouse, definitely.
Awesome, love it. Awesome, Shauna. Well, hey, if someone wanted to be able to reach out and connect with you, what's the best way for them to be able to do so?
They can certainly reach out to me by email, because I have a very long name. You can go ahead and use our info at SRP Consultants address. And then also I'll give you a link Extus that you can maybe post just to a gift that I've got that I created for some of our clients to help new consultants. If you are a new consultant, you're looking at how to package and how to cut through the fluff and cut through the noise, packaging your new consulting services, a guide that I made to go along with that, I would be happy to get you a link, and you can give that out to your audience.
Awesome. That'd be perfect. And guys, if you're watching this interview on the live or the replay, be sure to leave us a comment below. Let us know that you're here. And the links Shauna just mentioned for the free gift and to connect with her, they will either be right above or below the video. So you can click and get connected right to her. Awesome, Shauna. Well, hey, thank you so much for making the time to be here. Do you have any final thoughts before we end?
I think more than ever, what you have to share, people need. So be sure that you allow them to get it. If you're an entrepreneur, you're solving a problem, we've got no shortage of problems, they need you, make sure that they're able to have access to you.
Love it. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome.